When the small Wichita evidence room was reorganized in early 2025, no one expected to stumble upon a set of dusty brown boxes labeled only with a number and a faded police seal. The officers who discovered them didn't recognize the case ID at first. But when the inventory sheet was unfolded, the letters hit like a punch. BTK. For years, investigators believed everything connected to Dennis Rader, the bind, torture, kill killer, had already been logged, analyzed, and locked away. His confession in 2005 seemed final. His sentencing seemed complete. His legacy of terror archived forever. But these boxes held something different. Something that had never been reviewed, never entered into public record, never even mentioned in trial documents. These were internal agency files, unreleased reports, early suspect lists, psychological memos, and interview transcripts from the years when police hunted a ghost who taunted them with letters. The discovery spread quietly at first. Detectives whispered among themselves. Supervisors requested restricted access. Then, a veteran investigator made a chilling remark. If these files are genuine, we're about to learn how close we came to catching him, and how close we came to missing him forever. Inside those boxes were hints of mistakes, ignored tips, and early patterns that seemed obvious only in hindsight. But there were also strange sketches, coded notes, and references to items recovered but not processed. The files suggested something disturbing. BTK had not only hidden evidence from police had accidentally hidden evidence from themselves. And buried within those forgotten documents was a secret Rader never wanted revealed. A secret that raised a terrifying question. What else did BTK leave behind? And why did he want it buried? Before the forgotten files resurfaced, the hunt for BTK had already been one of the most frustrating manhunts in American history. For nearly 30 years, Dennis Rader blended into small-town life, church leader, compliance officer, husband, father, while police searched for a phantom who signed letters with a chilling acronym. The newly uncovered documents included early FBI behavioral profiles that described BTK as orderly, methodical, likely employed in a job involving rules. Those predictions were chillingly accurate, yet dozens of early interviews missed Rader entirely. One memo noted he had been questioned briefly in the 1980s as part of a routine sweep but was dismissed because he seemed normal. Normal. That was his camouflage. The forgotten files revealed internal debates among detectives, arguments about geography, victimology, and whether BTK was escalating or simply playing with authorities. Some believed he lived far from Wichita. Others insisted he blended into the community. Rader watched these mistakes unfold in real time. In one recovered document, investigators found a chilling annotation in the margin, handwriting that experts believed belonged to BTK himself. How did it get there? A theory emerged. Rader had mailed certain items directly to police, disguised as helpful corrections. These files showed something else. Police had, at times, been closer to BTK than anyone realized. One report documented a traffic stop in which an officer unknowingly pulled over Rader's vehicle. A second noted a suspicious man seen near a crime scene, height, build, and demeanor consistent with Rader, yet was dismissed due to lack of evidence. The files painted a picture of a killer who studied the investigation as closely as detectives studied him. And now, after decades, those same files threatened to expose secrets Rader hoped no one would ever find. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. As investigators examined the rediscovered files, they noticed certain pages were oddly clipped together. When separated, they revealed something unexpected. Early handwritten notes believed to be BTK's own rough drafts. These were not crime details. They were psychological taunts, fragmented thoughts, strange phrases, and lists of coded words he never mailed. Among the recovered items was a notebook page titled Projects Unfinished. Detectives debated its meaning. Some believed it referred to writings he never sent. Others feared it hinted at intended future victims, plans that never materialized. But the most unsettling discovery was a series of references to what Rader called trophies. These files didn't list physical items. Instead, they described feelings, fantasies, and moments he believed belonged only to him. These mental trophies were details he never disclosed publicly, things he feared would reveal too much about his psychological needs. One memo included an internal police interview with a former coworker who described Rader as intensely rule-focused, strangely controlling, but not dangerous. That interview was never used. Another file noted a neighbor who reported Rader behaving suspiciously around utility workers, yet no follow-up occurred. All these overlooked details hinted at a chilling truth. Rader didn't simply hide physical evidence. He hid parts of himself, fragments of his mind, and inner patterns that would have helped investigators understand him sooner. The more detectives read, the more they realized these forgotten files weren't just paperwork. They were a psychological blueprint, a map of how Rader thought, planned, and manipulated the world around him. For the first time, investigators had a glimpse of the secrets BTK wanted permanently erased. And buried deep in those pages was a reference to a location one detectives had never searched. The forgotten files contained a single, cryptic line scribbled next to an old photograph of a rural Kansas field. He always kept something there. No one knew who wrote the note. The handwriting didn't match any detective. It resembled Rader's. The location was cross-referenced with old maps, revealing the field sat near a drainage culvert not far from where Rader once worked. Though searched lightly in the 1980s, it had never undergone a full forensic sweep. Once the rediscovered files came to light, a special team quietly revisited the site. What they found wasn't physical evidence, nothing dangerous or graphic, but instead discarded sketches, torn notebook pages, and small items that pointed to Rader's long-standing obsession with documentation and control. These materials painted a picture of a man who treated his crimes like chapters in a self-created story. He documented motives, frustrations, and thoughts about investigators who were too slow or too confident. One fragment read, "If they ever come here, I will know they've caught up to me." The fact that these items survived decades of weather suggested Rader might have visited the area multiple times, replenishing or rearranging what he left behind. But the most significant discovery wasn't an object. It was a timeline. The files and fragments together revealed inconsistencies in Rader's known activities, suggesting he had been active or preparing for activity during years previously thought dormant. Nothing in the discovery changed the official count of his crimes, but it changed the understanding of his patterns. For investigators, the secret location showed something disturbing. Rader had always expected that one day, someone might uncover his hidden notes. He just didn't expect it to happen while he was still alive. When investigators finally assembled the rediscovered files, hidden notes, and secret location materials, a larger picture emerged. One that revealed the final secret Rader tried to bury. For decades, BTK cultivated the image of a meticulous planner, a man who claimed total control. He insisted he acted alone, thought independently, and left behind nothing he hadn't already confessed. But the forgotten files exposed a truth Rader never wanted acknowledged. He wasn't as perfect, controlled, or invincible as he portrayed himself. The rediscovered documents showed moments where he nearly slipped, where witnesses saw him, where police unknowingly crossed his path. There were mistakes, hesitations, and inconsistencies he worked desperately to hide. Rader feared these vulnerabilities becoming public because they shattered his self-constructed mythology. He wanted the world to fear his precision, not see the cracks beneath it. And that was the secret the files revealed. BTK was not a mastermind. He was a man who almost got caught multiple times. A man terrified of being ordinary. The files exposed his insecurities, his errors, and the fragile ego behind the facade. When news of the rediscovered documents eventually reaches the public, experts believe it will reshape how society views the case. Not because it changes the facts, but because it changes the narrative. BTK didn't outsmart investigators for 30 years. He survived because of timing, luck, and overlooked details, some of which are only now coming to light. And as detectives closed the last box, one final truth settled over them. Dennis Rader spent decades trying to bury these weaknesses. But in the end, the files he hoped would stay forgotten have become the key to understanding who he truly was. Not a perfect predator, but a deeply flawed man whose myth is finally unraveling.